When you think of VR on Roblox, typically the first few games you'll think of are either VR Hands or Opposer, for good reason, as both of them are the biggest games within Roblox VR. VR on Roblox is already very limited, as not many developers are looking to step into the realm, usually due to being unfamiliar or not really wanting to develop a VR game in the first place. The little support Roblox gives to its VR creators makes Roblox a very iffy platform to build a VR game on. The existing communities are incredibly small, and the few that do exist often gain very little traction. I will be introducing you to CROSSFADE to showcase plenty of content that might spark your interest. I hope it's just about enough to encourage you to give the game the recognition it deserves. CROSSFADE utilizes a loadout system, which allows you to buy items from the shop and equip them to your liking. Like many shooter games, you have access to primaries, secondaries, and utilities, with primaries having the assault rifles, shotguns, and snipers, secondaries having submachine guns, pistols, and revolvers, and utilities containing self-buff items, melees, and throwables. The game does allow you to unequip weapons you don't want, so if you don't want to use a specific category, then you're free to do so. For an alpha state of the game, there are a lot of weapons you can choose from, and a lot of them do fill the niches that they're designed for. Assault rifles are typically better at mid to long range, while submachine guns excel in close quarters combat. Additionally, utilities do have a plethora of uses and are very fun to work with. However, we only have a speed boost and healing items for the defensive stuff. The offensive side of things allow you to throw Molotov cocktails and grenades to flush out enemies. If you really want to change of pace, you can also equip a melee weapon instead of a grenade or a healing item. Right now, I think the system works pretty good. There aren't many things to change at the moment, but I think they've already got that covered. I don't believe there's anything else to go over about the shop, so I'd like to cover some of the other main menu buttons which are equally as helpful, with this one being the server browser. Although this looks like a basic server browser with the region cut off, which will be changed, it works very well for what it is, and can be relied on if you need a server with lower ping. Since certain maps might not have destructible crates or exclusive weapons, the server browser can let you join a server that has these exclusive items. You have the ability to do so if one of the maps are currently running in an active server. Granted, you will have to put up with the server ping if it's not in a region that's close to your device. If you can tolerate the ping, then you can play on any server you'd like without consequences, which is undeniably amazing. Most badges can be earned while playing the game normally, while others require you to go out of your way to actually get them. However, you should note that most of these badges are required for completionist, which gives its own rewards by itself, such as the ability to use Arthur packages in-game and having an in-game title. Additionally, you can view your statistics if you want to see your progress over your CROSSFADE career. With all that out the way, I think it's time we start talking about gameplay features. We'll start with movement, hit some guns, and then talk about maps. CROSSFADE is like any other shooter. You have your primary weapons, you have your melee weapons, maybe support items, then you go in and kill players. But CROSSFADE isn't all about shooting players, there are also movement options you can use to your advantage. I'm going to quickly go over the movement options for CROSSFADE, and then we'll talk about the weapons right after. Movement in CROSSFADE is a massive reason as to why I love the game as much as I do, so I'd like to quickly cover what's currently possible before we talk about weapons. The first movement option that is absolutely vital to any good player is running. You can run in CROSSFADE so long as you move your arms very quickly as if you're actually running in real life. You don't actually have to run in real life or have one of those VR treadmill things. You could simply move your arms back and forth to start running. The faster you move your arms, the faster you'll go. There is a cap on the run speed, so you can't blitz across the entire map in seconds, but it is absolutely essential if you're looking to get to cover quickly, shoot quickly, or do anything at a much more efficient pace. Running also has tech in the air. If you have some sort of air momentum, you can run in the air to go faster in the air. I know that doesn't make much sense, but it absolutely works, and it's very cool to see that you can do something like this with what's supposed to be a grounded mechanic. Now, of course, human beings can't just run, but they can also climb. And if you use your grip button while hovering over some sort of ledge or very small thing in the wall, you can climb it. This allows you to climb essentially anything, even if there's not a climbable surface, as you can still press the jump button to scale walls as well. This isn't the most effective method, as climbing is still super efficient, but when climbing cannot get the job done by itself, or flinging yourself up would make you vulnerable, using the jump button is a good alternative. Aside from the spedicola that you can buy in the shop, CROSSFADE does have other ways to move around the maps. But the things you need to pull them off, such as the items or the movement, are so inconsistent to the point you probably won't see yourself using them in regular gameplay. I'd still like to go over them anyway, as they are movement options, and even if they are inconsistent, they're still really fun to do. For this segment, we'll start nice and strong and talk about the RPG. Now, you can do a lot of things with the RPG. You can use it to kill people, as you normally would, or you can use its reduced self-damage to rocket jump. I am dead serious, you can rocket jump in this game. But unfortunately, Crossroads is the only map that guarantees the weapon will spawn. Other maps with crates such as Ironwoods and Snowy Factory can give you an RPG from those crates, but is so astronomically rare you're better off going to a Crossroads server. However, if you end up with an RPG on a Crossroads server, you can rocket jump to your heart's content, and if you have the Storm Drop purchased and equipped from the Melee shop, you can become a Trolldier or a soldier with the Market Gardener from Team Fortress 2. This is, quite literally, one of the most fun things to do in the game. If you're unfamiliar with Trolldier or the Market Gardener from Team Fortress 2, I suggest you look into Trolldier, and by extension the CROSSFADE version, if you want to know more about this completely different way of playing. Oh my god! Oh my god! Another way of moving is swimming, which requires you to move your hands as if you're actually swimming. Of course, swimming doesn't require an entire swimming pool, like running doesn't require a VR treadmill, but once you get the hang of it and how it works, it is extremely fun to sneak up on people like this. Alongside running, climbing, and swimming, you can also slide, which requires you to put one hand below and behind your torso, move forward, and then crouch in real life. However, this is outclassed by running, crouching while running, and essentially everything else. It mostly boils down to sliding being a lot slower than other options. Despite its limited practicality, I do find myself occasionally sliding for the fun of it. It isn't completely unviable, but it isn't great either. If you're trying to survive an encounter, then the best thing you can do above all else is directly run away. I don't doubt sliding is good when used correctly, but personally I haven't seen much success from using it myself. I think it's about time we start talking about weapons. There's a lot of movement in CrossFade I haven't fully explained in this video, so I encourage you to experiment for yourself in-game, or if you haven't tried the game yet, you can wait for me to publish a video in 7 years' time. At long last, we are finally talking about weapons. Guns are obviously the core of CrossFade, but talking about every weapon in the game would easily make me insane. For the sake of the time we've already spent on this video, I'm going to keep the specifics short and focus on talking about the categories themselves rather than each weapon individually. Starting with the bread and butter of any shooter game, assault rifles are surprisingly balanced. When it comes to other shooter games on the Roblox platform, assault rifles are typically seen as the strongest option due to their wide versatility and surprisingly good ranged performance. In CrossFade, however, they work just fine as close range and long range options. Despite their incredible versatility, assault rifles do fall short in some situations against submachine guns and shotguns. As long as you're aware of what you're going up against, you can use assault rifles in practically any situation you'd like. Overall, assault rifles are powerful, but they are fun. Sticking to the primary category, shotguns are in a bit of a strange place right now. From what I've used, there are 2 to 3 weapons which outclass everything else. The shotguns in question are the MOS 500, the GX 2800, and the third debatable weapon being the double barrel shotgun. These shotguns outclass a lot of the other weapons in the shotgun category, either due to power, accuracy, or range. Despite this being the case at the moment, I really enjoy using shotguns. There are some exceptions, like the Mag 7, because that gun is straight garbage. A lot of them are still good, with some being better than others, and I can definitely see someone winning a game with just a shotgun. To wrap up the primaries, snipers are definitely something. CrossFade's currently available snipers include the Stayer Scout, the Axe-50, and the Barrett M82. Understandably so, the Barrett and the Axe-50 have one-shot capabilities on the head and torso. The Stayer Scout is much different, as it has lower body and torso damage but maintains the one-shot kill to the head the Axe-50 and the Barrett have. Compared to the Axe-50 and Barrett, the Stayer Scout is a much quieter and quicker option. It sacrifices a little bit of range for quicker damage and a much higher skill ceiling. Although the scope is certainly not the best, I would be lying if I said this weapon wasn't fun to use. The quick shots you can score on this weapon, especially in dire situations, can be some of the most satisfying shots to land in the entire game. Despite this, the Axe-50 and Barrett often see higher usage due to their higher killing power and range. Every sniper is very good in CrossFade so long as you have the skill to back it up, though I personally believe the category is a bit overshadowed by more versatile options. They are still really good though, do not forget that. Now, moving on to the secondary category. When I say pistols are strong, you better trust me because these things are deadly. This is because a lot of the pistols have zero accuracy, meaning every shot you take is 100% accurate to where you're shooting. This means that anybody who can consistently aim with a pistol now has a long-range option that only has to deal with damage fall-off. Combined with a fire rate and some having super low recoil, you have a long-range monster which absolutely decimates anybody who isn't paying enough attention. Though, don't be surprised if this gets nerfed in the future. I don't think pistols are supposed to be this good at range, but I could be wrong. If you'd rather not use a basic pistol, you have the option to run the Desert Eagle if you want something a bit punchier. But if you don't want to run any sort of pistol, you can instead run an SMG, which is a surprisingly well-rounded category. A lot of the SMGs are catered for close quarters combat and do very well in that regard. And for your information, SMGs can be better than assault rifles in close quarters combat. If you're running a long-range option, such as the Axe 50 or the Stayer Scale, SMGs are a very good option if you feel like including an automatic into your loadout. Though, do be warned, they are not mid-range tools. Your sniper does that. If I had to nominate my favourite weapon, I'd probably say the M3 Grease. It's very good, automatic, good damage, and surprisingly good mid-range capabilities. Despite that, all of the SMGs have their use cases and there's one for everyone. Probably the most well-rounded and balanced category in my opinion. For the final gun category, we have revolvers. As of the making of this video, we only have 2 revolvers in the game, being the Colt Python and the S&W 500. Both of the revolvers are very good, but there are some things you need to be aware of when using them. I see the Colt Python as a close-range version of the S&W, with a little bit less accuracy but a faster fire rate. A trait the Colt Python shares with the S&W is the ability to one-shot to the head at close range. The S&W is able to do this at longer ranges due to its higher accuracy and lack of damage fall-off. Though, the S&W suffers from a slower fire rate compared to the Python, meaning your accuracy is much more important here. If you're a fan of burst damage like I am, the S&W and Python are excellent options if you prefer to specialize in that. Although they are slower than the rest of the secondary category, they make up for this with their high damage and good range. As for offensive utilities, we currently have 3 at the moment, those being the Molotov Cocktail, the Grenade, and the Flare Gun. The Molotov Cocktail is unfortunately a little bit niche, as it lacks the versatility that the Grenade has. Regardless, it is fun to use on Happy Home to shut down exits, or any map of corners or choke points that you'd rather enemies didn't cross. As for the Grenade, it's much more powerful than the Molly in terms of raw damage, but lacks the area denial that the Molly has. If you want the Grenade to explode earlier, you can pull the pin out of the Grenade, and then press trigger to release a safety lever, and then throw it quickly before it explodes in your face. You can also use the Grenade to flush out enemies into a vulnerable position, but that heavily relies on your aim and ability to throw it. Lastly, the Grenade is essential for a few achievements, such as perfect timing and collateral damage. And for our third offensive utility, we have the Flare Gun, which, I don't know. You can fire it in the air to alert players of your position, or you can use it as a damage tool by hitting your enemies directly, but the flare itself is hard to hit and typically isn't worth running over any other damaging utility. Most of the time, you're better off running something like a Grenade, or even the Molotov itself, or any other utility. I really want the Flare Gun to be a good offensive tool, I really do, but with how it is right now, it's just not good. Developers, if you can hear me, please give this thing a buff, I'm begging you on my knees. As for melees, a lot of them are the same in what they do. You run up to someone, you hit them, you deal damage, you kill them. Bob's your uncle. Though some of them do have their own gimmicks, such as some weapons having the ability to knock you out, while other weapons can instantly kill you under the right conditions. Some are better than others, such as the longsword having more reach than a knife, but then again, it's up to personal preference. They're not super important, but you can run them if you want. Those are all of the major weapons in CROSSFADE. As you've heard, a lot of them are very good, there are some outliers that aren't very good, but overall, I'd say it's very well rounded and everything can be good as long as you try hard enough. There are some other weapons in the game that I haven't covered, such as the laser weapons or the firework launcher, but like the RPG, they're really inconsistent to find and you won't typically use them in regular gameplay. If you want to know more about the rest of the weapons in CROSSFADE, I highly recommend you give the game a go to see what you might like. I'm sure there's something you'll end up enjoying. And finally, we've hit the last section, being maps. I don't think there's any reason to continue blabbering like this, so how's about we jump right into maps and finally finish this video. For our final segment of the video, I'll be talking about all of the currently playable maps. CrossFade currently has 7 available maps as of the making of this video, and each of them have their ups and downs I would love to talk about. Each map will be briefly showcased to give you a general idea of its design, and I'll include some practical gameplay on them to show how the map typically plays out. The first map I'd like to talk about is Ironwoods. The main points of interest on Ironwoods are the wooden mansion and the retail section down the road. Most cover on the map takes the form of a car or a truck, and if required, buildings and fences can be used as a means of cover. The map itself is very fun to play on, but the current state of the map's performance is not enough for me to fully enjoy playing on it. I won't go in depth about the optimization, but the map creator is thankfully aware of this and is currently working on completely redesigning Ironwoods. Beyond that, I think Ironwoods is very well designed and I do like it as a map, though the performance issues make Ironwoods a very difficult map to enjoy in-game. On the other hand, Cement Structure is a map I am surprisingly fond of. If the visuals don't tell you enough, Cement Structure is based on the default map from Gary's mod, GM Construct. Of course with several changes to make it much more suitable for a first-person shooter. If I'm being completely honest, this map is honestly one of my favourites. Cement Structure strikes a very nice balance where you're allowed to move freely in multiple areas, while having enough obstructions to keep you sheltered when being shot at. Though some areas are exempt from this, such as the bridges over the water, and I personally believe the spawn set here should be cast to the deep depths of hell. Usually, I have no problems with Cement Structure being selected as the next map, solely because I can have fun on it no matter what my loadout is. You can force close quarters combat, or you can force long range combat depending on how you use the map's terrain. There's also the water underneath the bridge, which can be useful for avoiding shots if you spawn in an unfavourable position. Generally speaking, Cement Structure has definitely grown on me since I started playing CrossFade, and is easily up there as one of my top 3 favourite maps. Speaking of, Crossroads is definitely up there as one of my all-time favourites. Although this version of Crossroads is much bigger than what people are used to, it makes up for this with the extra cover that each point of interest provides. Unfortunately, the cover won't always save you, and you might die a lot more to third parties on Crossroads compared to other maps. That aside, Crossroads is a very nice map to play on in general, and is the only map in the game that guarantees an RPG. Beyond that, I don't have much else to say about Crossroads other than the fact it's a very nice map to play on in general, though I would prefer to see some extra cover in the more open areas, such as the tower or the inside of Blackrock Castle. Another map that's grown on me a lot since I started playing CrossFade is Coastal Site. This map is a warzone on a seaside and has just about enough cover to make it very engaging. However, Coastal Site isn't as jam-packed as some of the other maps in this game. There are only a few locations on this map where you'll often see people, those places being the helipad and the concrete structure thing. Because of this, fights are a lot more scattered on Coastal Site and don't focus around 1 or 2 central points. The ocean also exists on this map, surprisingly, which can be used as an alternative flank route if the main beach isn't doing you any good, and obviously it's also fun to swim. I would argue Coastal Site is almost perfect, but I don't really know what would make it perfect. Like its older sibling, Happy Home has received a very nice makeover. Visually, Happy Home is really cool, it's like a modernized version of the classic look. However, you don't often fight around these areas as most of the fighting occurs at the Happy Home itself. It is a bit disappointing, but given the map's colossal size, it's kind of inevitable that people would end up fighting around one central point. To make matters worse, every single teleporter at these locations teleports you straight to the Happy Home. On some occasions, fights can stretch out to the small blue bungalow besides the Happy Home, but more often than not, people will stick around the Happy Home and the Happy Home only. In my honest opinion, Happy Home could do with some teleporter adjustments and perhaps shrinking the map a little. Those changes aside, I don't really find myself enjoying Happy Home compared to the other options available. Springfield is a very nice map which focuses on lower elevation fights. There are only a few high ground locations you can take advantage of in Springfield, but their positioning and lack of cover make you very vulnerable. Similarly to Coastal Site, Springfield doesn't have a major point of interest where most people gather to kill each other. Fights are much more spread out than other maps and make Springfield a very nice change of pace, just like Coastal Site. Honestly speaking, I think Springfield is the perfect map in CrossFade, as it lacks any sort of oppressive high ground, and the overall design of the map makes it fair game for all. Combat-wise, Springfield's design is absolutely spectacular, but I would completely understand if somebody called it basic. Every map doesn't have to be exciting. As for the final map of the game, Snowy Factory is alright. Like Ironwoods, I love Snowy Factory's concept, but there are some nitpicks that hinder my personal enjoyment of the map. Most notably, it feels like every area on the map can be flanked from long range. Excluding the insides of buildings, there's not many areas in the map that allow you to avoid long range attacks. If you don't want to regularly die, you might have to frequent the buildings around the map. Other open maps like Crossroads and Cement Structure at least have areas you can quickly dart to if need be. With Snowy Factory, a lot of the cover is limited to the buildings or small bits of cover dropped around the map. This design of the map forces players to remain in one specific portion of the map and doesn't allow them to branch very far aside from a few hotspots. Instead of a few drops of cover, I think Snowy Factory could do with a massive overhaul. The gigantic sightlines and points of interest make Snowy Factory a bit of a hard map to enjoy in my opinion. Though I do find some fun in running a shotgun around the points of interest. There you have it, an entire introduction to CrossFade. You may have noticed that I've left out some parts of the game, such as team game modes and the skin shop, but the reason for that is because they're pretty simple to grasp, and I don't believe they need an entire section. One last note, everything I've said in this video is subject to change. As the game is still in alpha and developing, everything I've said could change at some point. I don't know when or if it will. All I'm saying is don't take my words for gospel in about half a year's time. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I highly advise you give CrossFade a go if you're looking for a Roblox VR experience that doesn't meet the bare minimum. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.